Laura Thompson?
Yes, well, we have 7 strip clubs in District 10, and they've already been zoned, so there's not a lot we can do about the existing businesses, but I think that there should be like a stricter ordinance if we want to try to shut some of those strip clubs down, we need to have a stricter ordinance and make sure that they're abiding by those ordinances, that they're complying, and have more visits, like raids, but not necessarily call them raids, but have visits where we make sure that they're in compliance, and so you can start working on them if they're not in compliance. That's the only way you can get them, because they're pre-existing businesses and they've already been zoned. The other thing is to make sure that sometimes they'll come in and zone a business and then after the fact, set up a strip club or set up something that is not, wanted in the district. And so if that happens, we just need to make sure that we have some kind of ordinances in place that if they don't do the type of business that they say they're going to do, or ask them specifically, are you going to do this type of business or this type of business? Or is it going to be a strip club, or, do you plan to expand your restaurant or your bar into something different, and have them sign that? So if they're zoned and we've already asked those questions, then we can go in and get them on that because they signed it and they're not in compliance.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, 11:30 on KTSA with our District 10 City Council candidates. Around the table, we have Carlton Soules, Izzy Perez, Laura Thompson, and Bud Little. Our next round of questioning will start with Carlton Soules, and Greg Jefferson from PlazaDeArmasTX.com has that question.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next year, Mayor Castro wants to go to the voters and ask them to apply the city's last 1/8 cent sales tax to what he's calling the Brain Power Initiative. Now, it's not defined yet, but presumably it's going to have a lot to do with public education, early childhood education, and it'll probably try to do something about the city's high dropout rate. First of all, would you support that effort to put that on the ballot? This is for Carlton Soules.
Well, let me start by saying I do believe that the city does have a voice in education, and we should be part of the discussion. And the reason is that the school system, the product that they're turning out is our future workforce, and it'll impact the ability to develop the city economically and impact growth. So we do have a voice in that discussion. That said, the mayor has put forth a proposal, and that's on the table. And I believe it's up to the city council as well as the citizenry to look at the merits of the details of that proposal. We also have to look at it within the context of what's going on at the state level and at the local school board level. There's a lot of moving pieces, and there's a lot of things that have not been finalized. And then we also have to look at it within the context of your previous question, which is we have a reduced budget and other needs within the general fund that are going to be pressing. So I would support looking at it and entertaining it and seeing the details, but right now we don't have a detailed plan to look at.
Well, right now you're also in the legislature. You're looking at major cuts to public education. Would you see this as a way of maybe filling in some of the gap left by state funding or the lack of it?
The operating budget of the 3 largest school districts is roughly $2.5 billion, and we're talking about a mechanism that'll generate, I think, $12 million. So to believe that we're going to stop the gap with that, I don't think that's going to happen. So the real question is the proposal going to do what? What is the specific of the proposal? And we'll have to look at that and debate it, but I don't think it's going to be a stopgap to secure funding cut by the state.
Okay. Izzy Perez. It's also worth noting that this, if voters approve this tax increase, it would yield about $25 million a year. So Izzy, could you support that?
Now, I hear a lot the argument that you can't throw money at the problem in order to solve it. However, I look at this and I think to myself, it's a lot like saying my car isn't going fast enough, so I'm not going to put gas in it. These schools really need this money. Northeast Independent School District is in a shortfall of $86 million. Northside, I believe, is in a shortfall of $60 million. Southside is considering going to 4 days a week. These schools are, in fact, the future of our city. Our firefighters, our police officers, our future city employees are going to be coming from this public education system. And unless we want to pay higher prices for imported talent, we really need to be focusing now on this education. Now, I don't believe that this is a permanent solution. I do still think that this is a Band-Aid. But I think this is a bridge to get us to somewhere to where the school districts themselves can sustain themselves. And hopefully by that time, the Texas legislature will in fact start funding them again, or in the way that they used to.
So that would be a yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Laura Thompson, how about you? Could you support property tax increase or sales tax increase for the Brain Power Initiative?
Well, education is a top priority for me, and I know that it's traditionally a state issue, but I think that, and I don't know all the details of the Brain Power proposal that the mayor is proposing.
There aren't many yet, actually.
Right.
So.
I don't know the details, but I would support the tax, because if I'm in office, I would have a seat at the table and I would have input on how that money is going to be spent. It's in line with the Vision 2020 plan that the mayor's initiative.
SA 2020.
SA 2020, and so I would support it, because I think it's important. If we don't have an educated workforce, the legacies that we built for San Antonio, they're going to be destroyed, because you're not going to have many people working. You're not going to have people buying goods and services, and so it leaves us in a bad predicament. And although $24 million is not a lot, again, we don't know what it's going to be used for. It may be used to support some aspect of supplementing the educational process to help our kids to learn the value of education through hands-on experience on non-traditional programs. So I would support it.
Okay, great. Bud Little, what do you say?
Education is vital. Our kids need all the help they can get. As I block walk, and I've done a lot of it, the feedback I'm getting from people that I approach is they're not for it. They can't buy that other eighth of a cent. It sounds like a minuscule amount, but as has been stated before, when you're on a fixed income, every little bit makes a difference. I would be hard pressed to support it. I do say, though, that it probably should be decided by the voters and not by anyone specifically.
Do you think the city government has a role in public education?
That's an area that I have problems with. Again, the feedback I'm getting is that the city needs to worry about its responsibilities: streets, drainage, fire, police, garbage, and the school districts, while there are many of them. I think consolidation of the school districts would be the answer, but that's another story for another day. But I think the city needs to take care of its own backyard before it starts getting into and getting involved in the school districts.
Okay, thank you.
11:37 on KTSA. All right, our next round of questioning, we'll start with candidate Izzy Perez. This will be a short answer round, so I'm going to ask you a question that hopefully, if you can't answer it, it'll be a quick answer before we take our next break. Teddy Roosevelt famously said, government should do a few things vigorously and well. So to piggyback on what we were just talking about with Greg, can you think of a time where City Council tried to legislate or regulate something that it had no business being in? And if so, what is that example?
I can't think of many things that it had no business in being in, but I can think of a few things that are hard to actually enforce, such as the texting and driving, at least on highways and interstates. That is really difficult for officers to enforce. Well, I guess another area that I believe that City Council did overstep its boundaries was antagonizing the state of Arizona whenever it passed the measure to condemn the Arizona state law. Now, while I myself do disagree with the law, I don't think that the city should be getting into that sort of political riff.
All right, Laura Thompson, same question for you. An example of a time where there was either frivolous or overstepping legislation. Or everything they've done was just A-OK.
Oh, well, no, I didn't say that. But, I mean, just like right now with education, you know, in some cases, I think that, you know, we have to really look at the boundaries of what we're doing. Right now, I can't think of anything really in the past that I've kept up with and felt strongly that they were stepping outside of bounds, but some areas of education, although I'm in support of the city participating in some aspects of education, there's some areas where I think that we should leave it up to the voters and like appointing, have an appointment on the board. That's kind of an iffy or sticky situation.
All right, Bud Little, you started to say in the last round that you thought maybe the local school districts might be an area where the city does not necessarily belong. Is that your answer, or can you think of other cases where they overstepped?
You wanted a quick question, a quick answer? The Arizona issue.
The same one as you mentioned?
Yes.
Okay. And Carlton Soules, same question for you.
I think the Arizona issue, obviously, but one of the things I think the city we need to focus on is unintended consequences. I was talking specifically regarding economic development. I was talking to a gentleman the other day who owned a lot in an industrial parkway that had been built out 25 years ago and wanted to build a small office warehouse building on it. And when he got through with all of the various components that had been layered in, such as sidewalks, there were no other sidewalks in that area, and all the other things, it added $50,000 to the project and made it unviable. And what he wound up doing was going out to Bear County, outside the city limits, and building the project there. And that's tax dollars that were lost to the city. That was jobs that were lost to the city. So, you know, I want to look at unintended consequences of good intentions.
The current District 10 councilman had a proposal at one point to ticket people who handed money out the window of their car to street corner panhandlers. Really quick, yes or no, would you have supported John Clamp's proposal, Izzy Perez?
No.
All right, Laura Thompson.
No.
Bud Little?
I think it's useless.
Carlton Soules.
I don't think so.
All right, we're back with these candidates running in District 10, but first, 11:41 on News Talk 550 KTSA.